Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Italy Travel Podcast. I'm Darcy Melton.
And I'm Nathaniel Malloy.
And this week we're talking about headlines in Italy.
After all, this is an Italian, well, I was going to say it's an Italian podcast, but it's just an Italy podcast.
It's an Italy Travel Podcast. That's what it is. And we want to say a big thank you to all of you who have been following, leaving reviews, commenting. It really helps us out a lot. If you want to follow or leave a review, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Likewise, you can head on over to Patreon. A big shout out to Amanda and Brian and Ariel and Austin, our Rigatoni tier members. Thank y'all so much. You can support us, like all of them, on Patreon or join the chat there for free. You can also go to onlyabag.com where there are lots of articles written about Italy by myself and Nathaniel, and you can contact us there as well. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all so very much for your support and your continued support. We really appreciate it.
We really do.
So I think we're starting off with strikes.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
If you listened to our last headlines episode, which was back in end of July, early August, I think.
About there.
There were very few strikes in August because it's not legal to have big transport strikes. It will affect a lot of people because Italy knows how many people are traveling during this period, but there will be some in September.
Yeah, I think people either schedule them for July or September, so they don't schedule them in August. Not to mention, too, that everyone else is on holiday, so it's kind of like nobody wants to go on a strike when you're on holiday. You got to save that
doesn't make sense
for when you get back to work. So, I mean, I imagine. So the first one we're going to talk about is and I'm going to try to keep this in order of date, but also of importance, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with an important one, and then they'll move on to sort of date and important ones, basically. There is a rhythm to this madness. I don't want you to think I'm just throwing out random times. But
I'm excited to hear it.
Oh, beautiful. Let's do it. At least someone is. So September 7th through the 8th, there is a 24-hour strike for essentially all rail services. This is going to be a Sunday to a Monday.
Okay.
Roughly, I think it's like 9:14 p.m. to 9:13 p.m. on Monday. I don't know why those times specifically.
They chose to make that spicy by choosing an odd hour.
Really did.
Okay.
This affects Trenitalia, TPER, which is the Emilia-Romagna sort of local system, as well as this doesn't affect you, but if you're going to ship any freight while you're, I don't know, buying paintings or something, they will also be striking. However, there is still the guaranteed services, long-distance trains, and for anything that, like Trenitalia also runs buses, for example, within Salerno, they are still guaranteed services in the mornings and evenings to get people to and from work, to and from school. So it shouldn't be too much of a burden or too much of an effect on your trip, but just keep in mind if you are arriving mostly that Monday, mostly the 8th, just if you're going to try to travel that day, it could be a little bit of a hiccup. It could be a lot of people crammed onto one train, or you might just not get a connection if they're running limited buses or something.
Okay.
Guaranteed, but limited.
As always, we will put the guaranteed link in the description of this episode.
Absolutely. On the 13th of September, the ground handling staff at Pisa and Florence airports will be striking, as well as the private security at Fiumicino, Torino, and Malpensa Airport in Milan. So it's not going to be all day. It's only from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay.
And I just wanted to mention that mainly because obviously this is going to affect how you get into the country or out of the country, and there might be just delays. And I can't figure out, too, it doesn't... I understood this to mean private security, like they're the ones who control like the passports and things like that. It doesn't seem necessarily like that. So I'm not sure exactly what the private security there does. However, for ground handling, that very much is baggage and things. So if you're flying into or out of Pisa on September the 13th, just keep that in mind.
Or Florence, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, excuse me. No, just, yes, Pisa or Florence. What did I say?
If you first said Pisa and Florence, and then the second time you just said Pisa.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Yes, definitely Florence, too.
Okay.
Who's flying into Pisa?
Well, they're both pretty small airports, so there likely aren't that many of you going to either of these airports. But.
Yes, this is true. There's also a strike on the September the 30th. It's a national strike for all air traffic control. It's for EAV. And then a maintenance firm called Techno Sky. They're both striking. It's not just those airports, though. Like, as I mentioned, it's not just Pisa, Florence, Fiumicino, Malpensa, Torino. It's kind of all It seems to be
For the air traffic control strike?
yeah,
Okay.
it seems to be all airports. So essentially, it doesn't seem to they don't know when yet. It looks like it's just a 4-hour window, and apparently they're not sure. So it's kind of like they're not sure if they're going to do it in the morning or the evening or like middle of the night. I don't know.
Okay.
I thought you could maybe tell people ahead of time to plan around it, but everything I've looked up is the hours have not yet been decided.
Okay.
And I thought, well,
They've got a month, I guess, to decide.
yeah. So but I have basically I wanted to mention that one because if you are flying into or out of Italy on the 30th, and if you can change your flight, I would recommend changing it to the 29th or the 31st, just so unless there's only 30 days in September. So I guess are there 30 days in September? No, that's crazy. There's 31, right?
I think so.
I've never remembered which months have which days because
Me either.
that just seems difficult. But just to not fly on the 30th, basically, it's going to be kind of a madhouse that day as people try to, they're just going to be trying to shovel out flights basically within the same, either before or after that 4-hour window, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So those are the biggest ones I wanted to mention. Next are just some public transportation ones. Genoa, September 4th, so coming up in like a week, there is just an 8-hour bus strike. Again, it seems non-specific. They've labeled it as non-specific in terms of like we're not sure the hours yet. Again, that's in a week, so I'm assuming it's like in the middle of the day and not like in the middle of the night. So keep that in mind if you are visiting Genoa, if you're going through like Cinque Terre and you're going to end up in Genoa on the 4th or vice versa. Just to keep in mind, buses might not be running, or they might be some guaranteed ones in the morning and evening and nothing the rest of the day. Second, Venice, September 5th. There will be a strike between 4 and 8 o'clock in the evening for all bus services.
Oh.
I only wanted to mention this because it's unlikely he'll use the bus while in Venice.
Buses on the island of Venice.
On the island of Venice, but also within Mestre and surrounding
Are there
areas.
buses on the island of Venice?
There's one bus stop. And it's mostly, though, I wanted to mention it for those of you who are planning on taking it to the airport. They will not be running to the airport. So you have to either go earlier or get it doesn't seem like it's affecting any of the water taxis, basically, or the those fun
Traghetto?
That's the one. It just seems like it's affecting buses, but still keep that in mind if you are.
Oh, sorry. So within Venice, it's basically the airport bus. But then if you're staying in Mestre, which is right across the body of water, the river.
Sure. I feel like it's like
channel. What is that?
I was just going to say, honestly, the sea, but yeah.
I guess it is the sea because Naples is an island.
But it's definitely, there's a word for it, like a isthmus.
Right. Okay.
A strait.
So
could be a strait. It's not
Mestre
land.
is attached to
I feel bad for
Italy.
our listeners who are just listening to us struggle with dates and geographical features.
Okay, so Venice is an island, and then Mestre is another town that people often stay in. It's less expensive, and it's right next to Venice, but it's attached to mainland Italy.
Rather than being the island, yes. And there is I believe, a train or tram that runs between the two as well. This just affects the buses, so it's not going to be hugely important. I just wanted to mention it specifically because, again, if you happen to have a late flight out of Venice, even if you're going to a different part of Europe, then you might just be very surprised to find that you're not getting a bus between, and again, 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the evening of September 5th. Less specifically, Vicenza, Trento, Bergamo, and Perugia will all have strikes just kind of throughout the month. None of them seem very important or very long. It's just if you are going to one of those 4 cities mentioned, just keep in mind that you might have to look up strikes. But I just didn't put too much information because I didn't want to overload y'all. And
they're pretty short windows as well, right?
They're short windows, and it's like in Perugia, for example, it's very unlikely you're using public transportation because it's not like there are a lot of things to see outside of Perugia. And the bus, while it kind of does run in Perugia, most of what you're going to be seeing is walking anyway.
Right.
So there's a lot of these won't really be affected by that. Bergamo is also quite small, and most of it's contained. So this really probably won't affect you. However, on September 15th, specifically in Florence, near Florence is Prato, Ravenna, Naples, Venice, and Pisa are all listed for strikes on September 15th in their public transportation.
Okay.
Again, these seem to be more minor. But just keep that in mind if you are flying into and out of, mainly for trying to get to the airport. Again, getting around, as you mentioned, like in Venice, probably not going to need the buses very much. Naples is probably more important to keep in mind out, like an eye out for. But if it's just for a few hours in the middle of the day, you're not going to even notice, more likely than not. And lastly, this really shouldn't affect anybody, but I wanted to make it known anyway, that on Saturday, September 26th, there is a 24-hour general strike. It is being assuming to affect basically schools, healthcare, and just sort of public services like transportation.
Okay.
So it really shouldn't affect any of y'all too much, because I don't know if any of you are employed in Italy or anything like that, but it doesn't.
But the general strikes, they do affect transportation?
They do affect some transportation.
Okay.
It doesn't. It depends who wants to jump in on it, basically.
Got it.
So when a general strike is called, it looks like certain groups of people will be like, yeah, we're also going to strike today. But it seems mostly for sort of labor force and less for transportation, since they kind of do it separately.
That makes sense.
I guess you have to get to the strike, if you're going to, I don't know, protest or something.
Okay.
But it's also on a Saturday. So this will make people happy who says, oh, you guys only strike on a Friday, so you get that 3-day weekend. So now you're doing it on a Saturday, so I guess that's not a problem. And then just as obviously some of you already know this, but because you've listened to our episode on flights and what is and is not guaranteed, but if you miss your flight, or if you are kicked off of your flight or anything like that because of a strike, under European law, you are covered. So you can either get a full refund or reroute it on an alternate airline or alternate flight to your destination. So if you are flying from, let's say, Philadelphia into Naples, and there's a strike and you miss it for some reason, you can either just get a refund, cancel your trip, call it a day, go home, or they will reroute you on another airline, ideally to Naples.
Question.
Answer.
Did you just say that's only if you're on a European airline?
In theory. So how it usually works is if you're flying to Europe on a European airline, or if you're flying out of Europe on any airline, you are covered. But,
okay.
And I say in theory because it should be that European law will still protect you if you're flying into Naples, and not Naples specifically, just if there's a strike that affects your flight coming in.
Okay.
However, you don't go through, it looks like you necessarily might not go through your airline. You might have to, like, somebody at the help desk of American Airlines, for example, I'm really using this one specific example, I apologize, but in Philadelphia might not know that you're reimbursed. They might just say, hey, air traffic control is down right now in Naples. They're not accepting any flights. So yours is late. We're going to move it. You're not entitled to anything because you're in America. It's a little bit questionable. So that's why, again, we recommend highly flying European, something European there. Air France, British Airways is not European, but it's still covered under a very similar law. Lufthansa, anything like that, just something European based, so you will be covered.
Okay.
But also keep in mind that it does not extend to anything else. If you miss a hotel night, if you miss a guided tour, if you miss anything like that, you are not covered.
Okay.
There's no reimbursement there. So that is the strikes. I apologize for just monologuing for 13 minutes, but
That was good though. Strikes are important.
hopefully hopefully this helps. You can really plan around them. And then again, the only ones that'll affect you should be probably the air traffic control on September 30th. That's a big one. And the rail strike between the 7th and the 8th.
Okay. And for anybody who was really curious and dangling on our not knowing what that body of water was, I did do a quick search.
I love that. Okay.
It is a part of the Venice Lagoon.
Okay.
We've taken a train across. You can go from Mestre to Venice. And in my mind, for whatever reason, it's a river, even though I know it's not. So it is a part of the lagoon.
But I feel like it's still straight because it's like, it's a body of water separated by two pieces of land or something.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I can remember like third grade, I could see all those little illustrations.
I know, me too.
None of them are coming back to me right now.
We went to a Montessori school, and I don't know if that's specifically why we had these, but didn't we have almost little like puzzles that you could fit into the little bits and learn the straits and isthmus and...
Now you're telling people went to Montessori school, and every parent listening to this is like, I'm not sending my kid to Montessori school if this is how they turn out.
Okay,
never mind.
Specifically is not a good example of our great education.
So
let's move on. So there have been, there continue to be changes to Rome's tickets for buses and metros, for their public transport system. It's nothing huge, but it is just something to keep in mind if you are going to Rome between now and the future, because this will be rolling out through 2027. So Rome's public transportation is called ATAC, and they are phasing out those classic magnetic strip cards. If you've ever been to Rome before and used public transit, you've used one of these. It's a little paper card that has a magnetic strip, just like a credit card or debit card would, but it's made out of paper. And they're phasing these out in favor of contactless paper cards, tap payment with bank cards, and this new family tap payment method, which is basically linked to the bank card use, So I think what this means is that tickets that were once stampable in those yellow machines will not be used anymore. Instead, you will be using, in fact, we went to Rome recently for a short trip, and it's a little paper card that has, instead of a magnetic strip, it's got like a little chip in it. RFID chip. So you just tap it instead of stamping it. And in fact, the little yellow machines, and this is important because we have talked about Rome several times on this podcast and explained the specifics of how to use these cards and which machines are for which, because for a while it's been a bit confusing. It's going to get less confusing because they are taking away the little yellow machines, and from now on, you're just going to tap with your little paper card or tap with a bank card if you want to purchase a ticket on board.
Exactly. If I may just jump in really quickly and add, I think in the past we've talked about how Rome was talking about changing their price of their ticket and never really did. I mean, I think before now you said Biennale, and now Biennale is stuck in my head. It's not Biennale, but it's Jubilee. Before the Jubilee, they were talking about because they were expecting so many millions more visitors, they were going to change the price of their ticket just to sort of make a little extra money. This didn't really go anywhere that affects you as a tourist. I think what they ended up doing is changing the price of a yearly ticket to being a little bit cheaper, and I think increasing the price of like a weekly ticket or something. Okay. So essentially just for people who live in Rome, it got cheaper. For people who are visiting Rome for the Jubilee for a week, it got slightly more expensive. But then for those who are using like a single trip ticket, it was the same. Right. So they were trying to make sure nobody got too affected by it, because it is just hard to find that balance. So that was the first thing I wanted to mention. And second, as you mentioned, these little yellow little boxes and the tap cards, the RFID chip card you mentioned, the paper card, those are like permanent is too strong a word, but that's your ticket for your trip in Rome, basically. So don't throw them away.
It's so hard because it has the same consistency of a single trip ticket that we've used before in Rome and almost anywhere else. So it's hard to remember that you need to hold on to that. So whenever we recently went, because we haven't been to Rome in a while, we needed new ones. And because when we lived there before, we had like a big old rechargeable one that you put the whole month pass on, blah, blah, blah. So when we got these new paper cards, we chose the 3-trip option, which I think gives you the card for free. Otherwise, you pay like 50 cents for the card. And you can re-up it. Essentially, you hold on to it, and when you've run out of your 3 trips, you go back to the classic ticket machine in any metro station, and you can recharge that card with 1, 2, 3 more trips, whatever you want to do.
And of course, you can, if you wanted to, just throw away the card after 3 trips and get another one. But I think the purpose is to cut down on waste.
That is the entire purpose of this, yes.
So they're trying to encourage people, this is your ticket for the trip. Don't throw it away. But also, as you mentioned, we got the 3-trip ticket. I think they first rolled these out years ago because when my dad was visiting in 2022, they first had these and he immediately threw it away. He used the ticket and tossed it. And it was just right after me saying, don't throw this away. Please don't throw this away. So he didn't quite grasp that. But
so hold on to your tickets,
yes,
folks.
Yes. My brother kept losing it as well. He's like, I didn't think I would need that again. I'm like, I don't know how to make this more clear. It's a ticket. It's like you can keep using it. So
I think it's actually made a little bit easier by the fact that it is just a tap. You don't even on the metro, you don't have to insert it anymore, do you?
You can insert it, but you can. I think most people just tap.
Okay, I remember tapping it. There was a lot going on.
Yes,
but
it's easy because it gets really wrinkled, but you just hold it to tap it, and then even entering the bus. We've mentioned before that if you have a paper ticket, you want to enter on the middle of the bus and go left. And if you have a card, you want to enter on the middle of the bus and go right. Because on the right-hand side, there used to be the tap and go machines. On the left-hand side was that little yellow box. That was how they delineated it for people who just weren't used to being on the bus. And in fact, when you entered on the middle, they had a big sign on the window basically saying, paper card, go left. Debit card, credit card, go right. As part of their phasing out of the yellow boxes, they are putting those little tap and go machines on both left and right. And those are going to be used for both the tap and go ATAC cards, like the contactless ones, as well as the debit and credit cards.
Yes.
So there's no more question of, wait, which way do I go?
So it's all the same machine now, right? And
Yes.
they're red.
Yes. And they're little slimline and yeah, they're all the same machine.
Yeah. So one sad thing about this whole situation, I think, and I haven't clarified this 100%, but I don't think you're anymore going to be able to buy tickets at a tabaci.
I was curious about that too, because you probably need specific technology to recharge them.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing I meant to do while we were there, was see if the tabaci could recharge it, because they can recharge the monthly tickets already. That's where you'd get them, and that's where you can recharge them. So I know they have some RFID technology, and I'm assuming you can recharge them there. So then I'm assuming they still sell them there. But it would be interesting, because I think a fair amount of like business comes through there. It's just,
Right.
this is also...
And there are usually protections on those kinds of businesses.
Yes.
Like, for example, we're not going to get into it, but there are certain tax stamps that you have to go to a tabaci for. And a tabaci is the place that sells cigarettes and salt. And it's a classic old school Italian thing. And they also sell these tax stamps. And there have been protections on that for a long time about not taking that away. So it would be weird if this part of their business was taken away by these new tickets.
It also would, I think, I'm assuming they won't take it away, because it would go against one of the major parts of changing this is because, like, you know, at night, in the middle of the night, at 10:30, 11:30, you're leaving dinner and you need to get a ticket to get on the bus, and there's nowhere to get a ticket because everything's closed. So then you're just like, I guess I'm going to get on the bus without paying for it.
Right. Well, here's the thing. So you can tap and go. Is that I think it's the name of their system, even though it's in English, which is weird. So if you're in that situation and you have a tappable bank card, you can get on the bus or metro by tapping your bank card, and that will purchase one trip. However, if you're someone who doesn't have a bank card at all, or doesn't have one that taps, or you just don't like contactless payment, you can go to ATAC ticket offices, and that's what's written on the official, Rome ATAC site. And I believe that means the booths inside metro stations. So these are not going to exist at bus stops.
Correct.
Just metro stations, which is inconvenient. Further, to your example just before, they're only open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And most people in Italy eat dinner at like 8:30.
Exactly.
So if you're leaving dinner and you don't have a bus pass or metro pass, then you either have to use the contactless payment or you're out of luck.
And that was the thing, because I think part of this change was they mentioned wanting to cut down on fare hoppers or fare skippers or people who don't pay the fare. And somewhat as a valid argument is, I would like to pay the fare, but I can't buy a ticket on board before tap and go, or I only have cash, so I can't buy a ticket on board, and there's nowhere else open because you don't sell these at bus stops, but I need to get home. So, what is the you could have just bought a ticket earlier, but it's still if you're trying to sell a service, you try to make the service as easy as possible to access. Otherwise, it does sort of lend itself to being a stolen service, as they call it. So I think this is supposed to cut down slightly to be like, well, now you can just recharge a card. So there's less of an excuse to not having a ticket, if that makes sense. So I do think the tabacis will still probably sell them.
Okay.
Just
because I really like that. I like going into a tabaci to get a little bus tickets.
100%. It seems like it seems like also kind of a classically fun Italian thing to do if you're visiting, to do like, oh, we went to a tabaci to get these, rather than like...
It also gives you an excuse if you're not somebody who smokes. It gives you an excuse, or sometimes they're in a cafe, so you can just go and get a coffee there. But a lot of them, some of them are not very attractive, but some of them are like old school wood interior, and they're just really cool looking. So it gives you an excuse to experience that interesting little shop,
Yeah, that you normally would just be like, no, I'm just looking around.
Yeah, I'm just popping in. And some of them are really tiny, so they're only big enough for like 2 people. So it's not really a pop-in unless you have a reason to be there.
So hopefully, they continue.
One other quick thing, which is a big convenience. If you've listened to this podcast before, to our Rome episodes, we have talked about the fact that if you are a family or more than one person and you want to use contactless payment to
Yes.
buy a ticket on the bus. So for instance, you are a parent and you hop on the bus with your two adult or teenage kids, because kids under 10, I
I think it's
12?
12, I think.
I think kids under 12, we'll check that and put in the description. Kids under 12 ride for free. So you hop on the bus, you're a parent, you've got a couple kids over 12 years old, you need to pay for all of you. Up until this point, up until essentially this month, you could only buy one ticket per card. So as a parent, you would have had to have like 3 different bank cards in order to cover your family using contactless payment, just hopping on the bus. Now they have this new family package essentially, so you can put multiple fares on one card. So now you're good to go if you're one parent buying for multiple kids or your partner, all of that.
It also, so it's actually 10. You are right, not 12.
Okay.
So kids under 10 ride for free. Obviously, you still need to bring their passport with them. We have seen before that the ATAC ticket checkers, whatever, I don't know what they're called, not ticket checkers probably, but the people who get on to see if you've paid your ticket, they will ask to see the kid's passport. So you can't just say, oh no, he's definitely under 10. This man with a beard next to me. They will ask to see passport, and of course it's something you legally need to be walking around with anyway.
Yeah.
But also onto that note is, this is a good change as well, because as we've mentioned, you just said you can't put multiple people on the same card. I did see somebody on the bus when we were just there use their, like, I think some of these cards now, I know like ours, you can use a temporary card. So it only is valid for like one purchase. And they were using that as a way to generate multiple tickets off the same card. But I think on ATAC's website, they were very clear that does not work. It has to be it's a actually different card.
Yes.
So you can use one off your phone, no problem, but you can't do the generate a card for a one-time purchase, which
Okay.
it's like the thing you sometimes do if you're buying something off a sketchy website and you don't want them to keep your card details. So you just use it for one time, so they can't. So your purchase goes through, and then nothing else can go through, so nobody can steal it. It's a
Okay.
way of like, kind of, because you were looking slightly confused.
I
wanted
was,
to
yes. I was
explain
slightly
it.
confused. Thank you.
So they mentioned, I think on the ATAC website, that does not work, and then we have no way of verifying that.
Right.
It seems like so. This is hopefully a way forward where, you could just use one card, and I don't know if it's going to be tapping it 4 times or.
Right. So what I'm talking about is, yes, it is going to be, I think, tap. I think it's going to be a selection situation.
Cool. Okay.
Sorry, when you said card, I want to clarify. This is using a bank card.
Yes.
So your options are use a bank card, and I'm unclear whether it's tapping it a few times or for the amount of people that you have. I think it's more of a selection on the screen situation. Your other option is to just get, those rechargeable tickets at a metro station, and everybody has their own ticket, and you validate those cards on the bus or going to the metro.
That makes sense.
My very last note on this is that whether you are using the contactless payment, meaning your bank card on the bus or metro, or if you're using the rechargeable ticket, what have you, if you want to change modes of transportation. So for example, sometimes you need to take a metro to a point and then switch to the bus. What you need to do is with either of those, tap it again once you get on that new mode of transportation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if it's within that 100, because sometimes there's confusion, like, oh, is it going to use 2 trips, or, oh, is it going to double charge me? If you're in the 100-minute window that you get for any single ride, then it will not double charge you.
That makes sense. Okay.
And that has been updates on the new Rome ticket system.
I love it. What about Tuscany's new ticket system?
Yes. So Tuscany, Autolinee, which I think I always say wrong, Autolinee Toscana is the public transport basically all over Tuscany.
Okay.
That covers Florence, Siena, Lucca, that whole area. I'm only naming some big cities. There are obviously many more places in this region. So as of August 1st, so this change has already happened, they are increasing the fares. Not significantly, but it's just a note. The urban area ticket, which is whenever you're looking at either the website or ticket options for this, urban areas are big city centers. And then sometimes it'll be written like extra urban or outside urban. That is smaller towns like Poggibonsi, right, is a smaller city or town in that area. So that one would have a different ticket price. So in urban areas like Florence, the ticket is going from 170 to €2 per ride, per person. And then the tickets for smaller cities are going from 130 to 150. Not a massive increase in either of those situations, but just a note. There's also a 10-trip booklet, which is not a new thing, but that is going up in price as well. It was 1550 euros. It's now going to 1820 euros. This is for urban areas. Like I said, this means Florence, Lucca, Pisa, Siena. And one cool thing about this is that it's basically just a booklet of different passes. So if you are having a stay in Florence and then you're staying in Siena, or you're taking day trips, any of that, you can use these tickets in all of these big cities. And it can be shared, which is neat. So if you're a family or a group of friends, it's possible to use this 10-trip booklet amongst you.
That makes sense.
So it saves a tiny bit of money.
Exactly. It cuts down a little bit on money, especially because they're not that... Do you know how long the ticket lasts? Is it the same 100 minutes?
I believe it is 90 minutes in Florence, but 70 minutes in other big cities like Siena and Pisa and all of those.
Okay.
Yeah, so not too bad.
Not terrible. Yeah, It's also smaller than Rome, so it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So that was just a quick update on the Autolinee Toscana tickets. And now, Nathaniel, would you like to bring us to the border row, which continues?
As I think I mentioned in the last headline episode, and I never really touched back on it, but I just wanted to sort of cap off what's been happening for those of you who are flying between Italy and Spain. Essentially, as a quick refresher, there was the sort of migration crisis into Ceuta.
I think that's how you say it.
Okay. And as a result of that, Italy felt it was a good time to basically say, hey, you've been allowing too much irregular migration to happen. This is all your fault. We're going to suspend our Schengen agreement with you, Spain. Mm-hmm. Spain obviously was like, okay, that's really weird. Don't do that, please, because that seems that's crazy. Don't do that. Italy did it anyway, and they said anybody who's flying to or from Spain has to go through an additional passport check if they are not a EU citizen. So it's only affecting tourists or people on a tourist visa or people traveling who are not EU citizens. It just added a fun little layer of complication. Mm-hmm. Spain said, if you don't stop that, we're also going to do the same thing. Italy, of course, couldn't stop it and lose face, God forbid. So they said no. So Spain has now done the same thing. This is going to last, I think, until September 15th, and then they will do a renegotiation of it, basically.
Okay.
But it just is a little essentially Spain did it as well because I should have clarified that Italy has more irregular migration than I believe any other European country. So basically Spain is saying, by your reasoning, you would be the one we should all break our Schengen agreements with, right, not us. If that's how you're going to argue this, we should all close our borders with you until you figure out your problem, is how they're responding. Italy ignored that entirely. They're just like, well, that's not how that works. And so it's just a small update. It really shouldn't affect anything. It's just for those of you who are flying like Iberia. I think sometimes British Airways is because they're partnered with Iberia and a few others. I think they're all under, they're not One World, I don't think, but maybe they are One World. They're one of those little,
the groups.
The groups, exactly. Sometimes they route you through Madrid. So if you happen to be routed through Madrid, or if you're going to Spain anyway, if this is part of a tour where you go to Barcelona or something like that, just keep in mind there are some extra passport checks on top of the EES, on top of the normal regular things. It's just between those two countries. So if you're going, I think, Italy to France and then France to Spain, you're totally fine. So it's just wild. A ridiculous, So welcome to Europe, where we all get along really well. And that has been everything that is related to transportation in the headlines, I believe.
Yeah, that's been fun.
That's been fantastic. Thank you all so much for listening.
Thanks for listening. Tanti abbracci.